Ryan is a fiction and nonfiction writer. He works as a professional video editor, post-production supervisor, and photographer. In 2007, he was among the early co-founders of Austin Batcave, a writing and tutoring center for kids. Ryan will be reading from nonfiction that was inspired by a recent loss. Ryan.
I'm going to read two short scenes from a memoir about my girlfriend who passed away earlier this year, and probably the only thing you need to know is that the first scene is about a place that was very special to her, and that is where her parents live now, near Fredericksburg. Against the grain of Llano updrift contour lines, a 2-lane ribbon of ranch road runs to the very old granite dome bubbling in long slabs of coarse pink sediment. Its tiers are segmented by horizontal folds of dark green. For 2.5 miles from Crabapple Creek, the road appears to dive beneath a horizon of exfoliated Precambrian sheets. It veers near the base of Enchanted Rock's southeastern flank, past thickets of mesquite grassland and oak savanna stretched to a vanishing point in oceanic sameness. Little bluestem, switchgrass, frostweed, lovegrass, and vervain dot the shoulders of the road. Rattlesnakes and leopard frogs hardly move at all on the banks of Sandy Creek. Dragonflies and damselflies and black-chinned hummingbirds, all darting and floating above the static of cicadas' roar. Past the tapering flank of rock, not another car between the park's entrance on Ranch Road 965 and the cluster of mailboxes at Welgehausen. High clouds drift eastward over the oak savanna, flagging the light in large blurred patches. The road is cooked to the color of rocky soil on either side of crumbling edges. Jackrabbits, roadrunners, longhorn steers obstruct the road. Rumbling cattle guards indicate speed when they are crossed. Count them and you'll know how many remain to be crossed before arriving at the house. After the last cattle guard, the reflective blue pop of address sign invites through the open gate. Now slow up the gravel drive, along fence line, past burn piles, antlers, and animal skulls draped in Christmas ornaments. Thistleweed, sneezeweed, and Texas bluebonnet. Paloma cocks her ears, but doesn't move, her muzzle on paws on porch slab. She waits until the car passes some canine-defined boundary to trot past the Anacacho orchid and the front end of the car. Paloma out of sight under fender somewhere. The car door opens and she appears to lick a hand. On the porch, Dad in his brush pants up from the garden with the keyhole composter. Basil, dill, arugula, early girl. Chest-high grasses laid down in fluid murmurations of wind around the house. Inside, the Glasgow ink on paper hung at the end of the dining table, dense repetition of elliptic arcs above the table. The country wine of pedal steel from the radio speakers in the kitchen ceiling, grapefruit margaritas sweating on the counter. Mom on screened-in porch laying place settings for sunset dinner, the grandkids' toy kitchen stove beside the porch's table. Beyond the house, the silence of sun bending to lower frequencies of reds and oranges, oaks in small stands for a mile to the top of the hill, and passing low over clusters of oaks with increasing speed, a thermal provides lift above the plateau. 6 p.m. Saturday, January 23rd. In the course of 3 days, the speech-language pathologist had changed the dietary goal from a status of no restrictions on Thursday to NPO or nothing by mouth on Friday, and eventually to comfort feed on Saturday. When the status changed and was rewritten on the patient dry erase whiteboard as PO comfort feed, Elizabeth asked me to order her something from the hospital menu. "It's over there next to the sink," she said. I pulled out the trifold on-call dining menu, which in terms of durability is impressive, and resembles an in-flight safety pamphlet, but lacks the usual appeal of a menu. The hospital logo is prominent on the front of the pamphlet and prompts the user in all caps to dial an internal 5-digit number. The number for on-call hospital dining feels like an emergency when it is dialed. It is similar to the clipped digits we memorized to reach our assigned NT or RN in case a bag of saline is completed and the IV pump is squawking at uncomfortable volume. I read the bullet-pointed menu options aloud, and Elizabeth said, "I'll try that," in her hoarse whisper to every one of the mushiest choices: fruited yogurt, light fruited yogurt, oatmeal, tomato soup, whipped potatoes, mac and cheese, pudding, applesauce, jello, broths of chicken, beef, and vegetable, and the one thing that hospitals keep in the floor's shared fridge at all times, the one thing fridges must never run short of: popsicles, which she hated because they stained the inside of her mouth an unnatural color of purple. We ordered more food than we had ever ordered from a hospital kitchen. Usually Elizabeth avoided the hospital menu. She stored snacks and meals brought from home in the shared fridge. And during long inpatient stays, the nurses would move a portable fridge into her room in anticipation of the high volume of leftover muffins and soups and noodle dishes that accrued on the bedside table near the call button. But now we needed a variety of on-call hospital mush. The kitchen employee down there in the basement taking the order over the phone was extraordinarily cordial with regard to our comprehensive and ambitious order. Probably the last-ditch order of the entire menu from the comfort feed patients is routine for the on-call dining staff. Maybe when the staff member hangs up the phone after our order, they simply write "comfort feed" on the order ticket as shorthand for heaping trays of food that will be sent up to the patient's bedside for a few hours and then tossed in the waste bin. When the tray arrived, I placed a baby-sized bite of potatoes on Elizabeth's tongue, and she closed her eyes to concentrate on the pharyngeal phase of swallowing, the second of 3 phases when the exposed larynx is most susceptible to aspiration. Or maybe she had closed her eyes in order to forget about the swallow's pharyngeal phase, trying not to overthink it. Maybe she left the overthinking to me. If she did, I obliged by visualizing the epiglottis flapping down shut, sealing away the larynx. I prayed for peristaltic waves. I tried to visualize whipped potatoes riding waves all the way down to the stomach. Instead, what I visualized was X-ray video of a failed swallow study performed by the speech therapist a few hours before. She had informed us that because of the high risk for aspiration, there was no way to eat safely now, that eating could be hazardous. But what was not eating then? Elizabeth pursed her lips and appeared to forget what was supposed to happen after a swallow's initiating oral phase. It seemed wrong that after everything, the in-block resection, the preoperative stroke, the recovery, the recurrence, always the recurrence, the pulmonary nodules, the lesions, the prioritization of certain lesions above other worrisome but less critical lesions, the alternating sun and moon outside the window during weeks of inpatient stays, the internal clock's jittery perception of time. What day is it? What month is it? The friend's anonymous coffee and pastries and flowers left behind when she was asleep. The blue sickness bag stashed in purses, stuffed in car seat pockets, kicked way down underneath the top sheet at the foot of the bed. The threaded needle of thermal ablation, the surgeon scrubbing into Mozart in the operating room to prepare for thermal ablation. The approaching lifetime dose limits of radiation grays, the pen and ink line drawings, watercolors and monoprints produced and sold during brief windows of energy between hospital stays. The growing resistance to synovial sarcoma to ifosfamide chemotherapy and the rebounding cytopenias. Our problem had been reduced to whipped potatoes and how to get them from the on-call dining platter to where they belonged. Elizabeth motioned for the suction yonker to remove potatoes lodged against a dead end at the back of her throat so she could breathe again, and we knew there would be no more attempts to swallow mushy bites from the heaping tray of food. Thank you.